For more on cybersecurity, we're joined by Colonel Cedric Leighton. He has nearly 30 years' experience as an intelligence officer in the U.S. Air Force. He is the president and founder of Cedric Leighton Associates, and he joins me now from our Washington bureau. Colonel Leighton, welcome back to Bottom Line. Pleasure to have you on.
Same here, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Colonel, are America's cybersecurity systems being adequately defended?
Absolutely not. And I think, what Megan's report pointed out is that there are so many vulnerabilities out there. There are companies that are losing thousands of customers daily because of these vulnerabilities. There are companies that have their internal secrets compromised. There are companies that are losing business because their intellectual property is being stolen. And that is really the danger that the country faces. And the fact that right now it seems as if we're not doing enough to protect ourselves, that has become one of the key vulnerabilities that the nation faces.
Colonel Leighton, Megan just talked about the economics of this. The global figure was about $1 trillion that it cost to the economy. Any idea how much that figure is here in the United States?
Well, it would be somewhere between, I would estimate, between $200 and $250 billion minimum every year. I think it's more than that, but for minimum figures, I would say about 250, going up to around almost $500 billion would be an easy guess. As far as the vulnerability is concerned.
Well, yesterday, Megan reported on a group of Chinese hackers called the Comment Group, and the global group's reportedly linked to China's military. Megan reported that last August, the hackers broke into the Diablo Canyon nuclear network, but they were being monitored by U.S. researchers. I'd like to get your reaction to what one of the researchers told Bloomberg News. He asked to remain anonymous. Here's what he had to say.
If America truly knew the organizations that have been compromised, the specifics of the data that has been lost, and the amount of that data, and how long this has been going on in the dark, they would be absolutely horrified.
Colonel Leighton, does that assessment of what's been taking place surprise you?
Not at all. I've worked this for many years, as you've mentioned, and it is really the tip of the iceberg that's been revealed publicly. Cybersecurity is the preeminent security issue for the nation this decade, if not for this century. And that is really what we're dealing with here. We are dealing with significant economic losses, significant security losses, significant intellectual property losses, and these are the kinds of things that we're vulnerable to. And the fact that, for example, Diablo Canyon, that is one example. Think of every utility. Every utility is a potential target. Every utility is a potential victim in this case. And if they're looking at the utilities, you can rest assured they're looking at things like banks, they're looking at transportation infrastructure, railroads, airlines, all of these kinds of things. And that is really a summary of some of the things that need to be protected in this case.
Colonel, Megan just mentioned that bill to protect critical American industries from cyber attacks. It cleared a procedural hurdle in the Senate last week. The bill did win overwhelming support when regulatory provisions requiring essential businesses to meet standards that were established by Homeland Security were removed. And the new version of the bill offers incentives to businesses that voluntarily participate in a government-run cybersecurity program. If the issue here is national security, should the program be mandatory?
In my opinion, it should, Mark, and the reason is this. I think you need to look at the whole internet as a utility as opposed to a means of communication. It is more and more a utility, and utilities need to be protected. They are critical targets. They are, in and of themselves, part of the critical national infrastructure, and I was very disappointed as a security expert, very disappointed that the mandatory provisions have been removed.
But Colonel Leighton, as you know, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is opposed to the bill. The Chamber says the legislation's flawed and it contains too much government oversight.
Well, that's true, and it's very, very important to realize that, from the Chamber's point of view, they're looking at what makes businesses work. From a security analyst standpoint, you look at what can secure the networks that we're dealing with, what can secure the ability to perform commerce and commercial transactions, and that is really the difference in perspective that makes this such a hard problem for our politicians to solve, and a hard problem really for the nation to come to grips with.
Colonel, I have a little less than a minute left. How would you rate the cooperation and the coordination between the public and private sectors when it comes to research and development on cybersecurity?
There are aspects that are actually very, very good. There are firms that specialize in cybersecurity that do an excellent job, and many of them contract with the federal government and specific agencies of the federal government to perform that kind of work. I think where we're falling short is that that type of coordination is only in a very specialized community. It is not extended to other aspects of the government. It is not extended to the commercial area writ large. Banks have gotten a lot better, for example, in their cybersecurity approaches, but the rest of the economy, generally speaking, needs to ramp things up. Otherwise, they'll go the way of Nortel and other companies that have really been bankrupted by the type of breaches that they have been found in their IT networks. And that is really what we're talking about here, protection for all of us so that we can enjoy the liberties of the internet.
Cedric Leighton, he's president and founder of Cedric Leighton Associates, joining us from Washington discussing cybersecurity threats. Colonel Leighton, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks so much, Mark. Thanks again for having me.
You too.